If you've ever seen a Street Fighter cabinet in a grocery store, then you've likely also played the first-person shooter classic, The Oregon Trail. The main gameplay of The Oregon Trail, of course, was hunting animals for food, but after you did that, there were secondary aspects of the game where you could do things like traverse the United States via oxen-pulled wagon and trade some of your meat for other supplies with NPC travelers. Now, the interesting thing here was that you could haggle to try to get better deals, but if your offer was too low, you could actually offend the NPCs and they'd stop trading with you altogether. Indeed, to master the Oregon Trail, you needed both strong aim and negotiation skills that didn't make people feel disrespected to the point of no longer wanting to do business with you at all. That brings us nicely along to modern fighting game developers like Capcom and NetherRealm Studios, who are facing this very same problem as they have worthwhile content to continually sell us, but are also having a good bit of trouble packaging and negotiating the sale of that content in a way that doesn't make fans feel like they're on the wrong end of a bad faith deal. It's important to remember that we're in a relatively new era of gaming when it comes to modern DLC practices, and figuring out how the fighting game genre might best fit into those practices requires an ongoing dialogue between the developers who create and the audiences who consume. A recent faux pas on this front shows that dialogue playing out in real time as NetherRealm Studios thought they could sell Mortal Kombat 1 players a special Halloween-themed fatality for a whopping $10. Said fatality was cool enough and a worthy addition to a Mortal Kombat DLC store, but when it was unveiled, fans were talking more about the price than the content, and as soon as that happens, you know you've messed up. When news of MK1's second holiday-themed finisher came out for Thanksgiving, fans were already saying things like, "better start saving up now," as opposed to speculating how the kill move might play out. It's hard to say exactly where, but NetherRealm clearly crossed some line with this move and needed to quickly rebalance the scales to avoid garnering a more permanent reputation as DLC price gougers. And they did just that. 17 minutes after this post leaking part of the Thanksgiving fatality went live on X, the official NRS X account posted plans to bundle all 3 planned holiday-themed fatalities for $10 total. Those who had purchased the aforementioned Halloween finisher would also receive the other 2 at no extra cost. It still depends on whom you ask as to whether or not getting 3 fatalities is worth $10, but it's certainly more acceptable than NRS's original plan. What's more, it shows NRS is open to negotiation with fans, making missteps all the more forgivable. The other big name in this space right now is Capcom, as Street Fighter VI launched in the middle of the year, and thus we've had opportunity for a few DLC interactions, notably 3 that stand out thus far. The first of these is actually going fairly well, and that's DLC character additions. The practice of releasing a handful of new characters over the course of a season has become commonplace for major fighting games and all but expectation from fans. And while Street Fighter VI's characters are a tad more expensive than their equivalents from Street Fighter V, audiences have been widely happy with the first 2 as far as them being worthwhile purchases. Yes, you can surely find Reddit threads where people argue about the pricing and quality of Rashid and or Aki, but the wider conversation has been much more about how these 2 function in the game, not about how much it costs to add them to it. Capcom seems to have found an acceptable groove here, and as long as future DLC characters continue to feel like quality additions, audiences will continue to feel acknowledged and well treated. Let's take a look at a not-so-successful DLC moment in Street Fighter VI's 6-month run thus far, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles content. Just after EVO, Capcom released TMNT costumes that players could use not in the main game modes, but for their custom avatars that are used to traverse Battle Hub and the World Tour modes. There's plenty of crossover love for TMNT in the fighting game community, and this was a cool idea up front. But when Capcom revealed that the price of just 1 complete turtle costume was $15, the dialogue went a little sour. $15 for a lobby skin was already a lot, but when people started considering that it had cost $60 to get all 4, the price that they paid to get the game in the first place, and that differences between each of these were only seen in headband color and non-usable weapon accessories, it quickly became hard to see Capcom as anything but greedy in this exchange. This wasn't the highest of stakes situation, as not all players even use their custom avatars, but it started an impression Capcom surely didn't want sticking around. Even those who tend to spend all of their SF6 time in the modes where this content wasn't relevant became wary of what the third major SF6 DLC interaction might entail in terms of pricing. Said third interaction was tertiary costumes, and, well, it's not exactly going well. On December 1st, Capcom released third costumes for all 18 starting roster members in SF6, and while the majority of these new threads have been received as hits worthy of forking over a few extra bucks for, the conversation is clearly crowded with comments about cost. So, the third costumes in Street Fighter 6 must be overpriced then, right? Well, oddly the answer is both yes and no. Each character's outfit 3 costs 300 of the game's special currency, fighter coins, which translates to about $6. That's not exactly cheap, but it's also not outside of what most people would deem an acceptable price range. People aren't talking about how it's $6 for a costume, however. They're talking about how it's $100, twice the price of the game itself, to get all 18. This is interesting because honestly, $6 for a premium costume in 2023 does sound fine, but twice the price of the game for costumes sounds very much not fine. It turns out that at a certain level of analysis, these aren't the same things. Most players are only going to be interested in costumes for their main characters, meaning just 1 or 2, maybe 3 alternate outfits. Unless you're a tournament organizer who wants to offer all potential participants extra options, costumes for characters you never use are simply not going to be worth as much to you. This is a sneaky but important truth Capcom needs to attend to. As things stand right now, fans can too easily point to the bulk price that comes across as ludicrous and conclude Capcom is trying to gouge them. The apparent answer, as many have already asked for, is a bundle with special pricing. The returns are no doubt diminishing for Capcom, and the ceiling here is probably closer to somewhere around $30 for all 18 costumes. But along with that come the benefits of creating an atmosphere where it's cooler to buy the costumes than it is to complain about them, and where you have a fan base who feels like they're in good hands and thus might be a little more willing and loose with their wallets in the future. While we're at it, there's another economic issue causing Street Fighter 6 fans to feel gouged, and it's in the way premium currency is purchased. Fighter coins are sold only in bundles, and so in the common instance where a user is just 50 coins shy for an item they want, they have to fork over enough cash to purchase at least 250 more fighter coins. What's more, the game's tertiary costumes cost 300 fighter coins apiece, essentially forcing fans to spend at least $10 if they want to buy one. The few extra bucks Capcom might make by doing business this way may yield a short-term gain, but the sour taste it leaves in consumers' mouths all but certainly sets them up for long-term loss. Developers need to make spending money as easy and fluid as possible, not draw unnecessary attention to the process. They need to be aware of the true and scaling values of certain DLC content and use this information to ensure they're producing experiences that drive positive conversation about their games, not negative conversation about how expensive they are. As we noted earlier, this is relatively new ground in many ways and thus requires dialogue between creators and consumers. We hope statements and expressions made on social media, sites like EventHubs, and videos like this one reach developer ears and we see quick changes like the one NRS made for the MK1 holiday fatalities. For now, we look forward to seeing if Capcom makes any emergency alterations to the pricing and/or packaging of its latest DLC, and hope for the best that they and other major dev companies are able to calibrate to bring about DLC experiences that don't make us feel like we're dying from dysentery. If you found this video either educational or entertaining, please consider giving a like and a subscription to our channel. I've been John Velociraptor Guerrero for EventHubs. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next video.